Good morning. I want to, as I like to do, welcome members and staff and guests to the April meeting of the Authority. It's a pleasure to have you all here. It's a beautiful day in Albany, and at this table, as opposed to the table in New York, everybody can see how beautiful it is.
That's because we're in Albany.
Yes, sir. On behalf of the board, I want to welcome to the table Joan Sullivan.
Thank you.
Our newest member, appointed by the Controller. We look forward, Joan, to your contributions to this group, to these meetings. As I have said, feel free to be in touch with anybody who's here whenever you have a question. We're really pleased to have you here. It's a real pleasure to welcome you.
Thank you very much. I hope I can serve the board well. Thank you. I look forward to it. I've already met with Gerard and two of the Mikes, and they were extremely helpful and patient with me. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We look forward to having you here.
Thank you, Al.
There's also another new person at this table today, Kay Edwards. Kay works for Mike, and I'm going to let Mike tell you all who she is. You don't already know her. I think many of you do.
So within the council's office structure, we have 3 managing general counsels, and Kay handles litigation and claims and has been very instrumental in the management of our litigation portfolio and the reduction of the claims in our alternative dispute resolution. We'll be giving a short update in executive session vis-a-vis the pending cases, and our duty every year as we sign off on that report for the auditors as part of the audit, having just finished.
Yes.
So we'll be giving you an update in executive session on the pending cases.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, good to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
One last announcement. Several members of the staff and the president have to leave sometime around 11:30. Don't be surprised when they get up and go. Given the short agenda, we may actually be done by that time. Which means we should get started. The first order of business is the election of officers behind tab 1. You know some of these people, some of these folks you don't know, but they've all been vetted and are the right people for the jobs to which they're being elected. At least I've been told that's the case. Are there any questions about the folks on this list? If there are none, then may I ask for a motion, please, to approve the resolution? John Gardner, thank you very much. Second? Gerard, thank you very much. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
As there are none opposed, the motion carries unanimously. The resolution is passed. On tab 2 are the minutes of the meeting of the board of March 6th. You all have had a chance to review those minutes. Are there any corrections? Misstatements? Hearing none. May I have a motion, please, to approve minutes? Tracy, thank you. Is there a second? Joe, thank you very much. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. On tab 3, the report of the Finance Committee. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met yesterday in Albany. We adopted the meeting minutes from the March meeting of the Finance Committee, and then we advanced to discuss one refunding from Brooklyn Law School, and without any real debate, but seriously, we actually had some discussion on it. We recommend it be approved at today's board meeting, and that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course, as a very prominent graduate of Brooklyn Law School, we're really pleased to have this come back to you.
That was a lead into lack of a debate. But
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Gerard? There being none, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome again, Joan.
Thank you.
To spend time with me yesterday. Behind tab 4 is the Brooklyn Law School single approval transaction summary presented by Matt Bergen with bond counsel Seth Bryant and Charles Keith from Bryant Rabin LLP.
Seth, Charlie, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go over the staff report, and then Seth and Charlie will go over the legal documents. So Brooklyn Law School is the financing before the board, and the staff report provided to the members presents a 15-year term for a bond issue not to exceed $40 million as the law school looks to refund their Series 2009 and 2012 A bonds that were both issued by the Dormitory Authority. The proposed security features for the Series 2019 bonds are expected to include a pledge of tuition and fees equal to maximum annual debt service, as well as a negative pledge on encumbering the law school's main facilities. The expected ratings are Baa1 from Moody's. Regarding Brooklyn Law School, they were founded in 1901, and they're one of the oldest and largest independent law schools in the United States. The law school operates under a charter granted by the Board of Regents. They are accredited by the American Bar Association, and they are a member of the Association of the American Law Schools. The law school offers certificates in entrepreneurship law, business law, criminal law, intellectual property, media and information law, international law, and real estate law. In looking at their financials, the law school's ratios with regard to their balance sheet compare well to the DASNY medians in terms of balance sheet liquidity and financial resources. However, operationally, they have reported losses from operations, and they do rely on their endowment. Regarding the proposed refundings, the Series 2009 bonds are a current refunding and can be done on a tax-exempt basis, while the 2012 A bonds are an advance refunding and must be done on a taxable basis. When combined, a net present value benefit of approximately $4 million is anticipated. However, this does include approximately $400,000 of DIS savings on the advance refunding for the 2012 A taxable refunding. The law school is aware of the DIS savings on the 2012 A bonds, and they are monitoring the situation closely. And finally, DASNY has previously issued 6 series of bonds on behalf of the law school, and they have met all their debt service requirements on time and in full. And Mr. Chairman, now I'd like to turn the presentation over to Seth. Please do.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning. My partner, Charlie Keefe, and I will describe certain background related to the bond issuances that Matt just described on behalf of Brooklyn Law School. We'll discuss the plan of finance, some history around prior bond issuances, the authority's resolutions supporting the Series 2019 bonds, the loan agreements, and other bond documents. DASNY has issued bonds for the law school since at least 1991. Series 2019 bonds are being issued to refund the authority's tax-exempt Brooklyn Law School revenue bonds, Series 2009, of which principal of $22,340,000 remain outstanding, and the authority's tax-exempt Brooklyn Law School revenue bonds, Series 2012A, of which principal of taxable, of which principal of $16,355,000 remains outstanding. The authority also issued bonds for the law school in 2003, which were fully refunded by the Series 2012 A bonds. Aside from the refunded bonds, no other DASNY bonds issued on behalf of law school remain outstanding. The law school has requested that the authority issue the Series 2019 bonds to current refund the Series 2009 bonds and to advance refund the Series 2012 A bonds. The currently anticipated bond structure contemplates the issuance of the Series 2019 bonds as fixed-rate bonds without credit enhancement in 2 series. A series of tax-exempt bonds to current refund the Series 2009 bonds, and a series of taxable bonds to advance refund the Series 2012 A bonds. Depending on market conditions, however, it is possible that the law school would choose to keep in place the Series 2012 A bonds. It's expected that a portion of the proceeds of the bonds will be used to pay the cost of issuance related to the issuance of the Series 2019 A bonds or 2019 bonds. Maturities of the Series 2019 bonds are not expected or will not exceed the maturities of the bonds that are being refunded. And now I'll ask Charlie to describe the bond resolutions.
Good morning. The general resolution for the Brooklyn Law School revenue bonds was adopted by the authority in 2008, and it provides for the issuance of multiple series of bonds in an unlimited principal amount pursuant to series resolutions adopted from time to time. Bonds may be issued to finance or refinance the cost of one or more projects for the law school, to refund notes or bonds of the authority or other indebtedness of the law school, and to pay costs of issuance. Each series of bonds is separately secured from each other series of bonds by the revenues received by the authority under the loan agreement for that series and pledged to that series, and by the funds and accounts established for the series. The general resolution sets forth the general terms for each series of bonds, including security for the bonds, establishment of funds and accounts, flow of monies through such funds and accounts, events of defaults and remedies, and various other general provisions. The general resolution authorizes the authority to establish, pursuant to a particular series resolution, a debt service reserve fund that would solely secure payment of the debt service on that series of bonds, but it is not expected that there will be a debt service reserve fund in connection with any of the Series 2019 bonds. Before you today are 3 series resolutions authorizing individually and in the aggregate the issuance of up to $40 million of Series 2019 bonds. That is, each series resolution authorizes the issuance of up to $40 million in bonds, and further provides that in no event shall the aggregate principal amount of all the Series 2019 bonds exceed $40 million. And this setup, as I'm sure you're familiar from previous transactions, is to provide flexibility as the transaction moves forward to closing. Although it is anticipated that the bonds will be issued as fixed rate bonds, all or a portion of the bonds also may be issued as variable interest rate bonds, option bonds, capital appreciation bonds, or deferred income bonds. But again, it is definitely the plan that these are fixed rate serial and term bonds, both the tax exempt and taxable series. The series resolutions are identical in all respects. Each series resolution delegating to officers of the authority the power, among others, to determine various matters. These include the principal amount of bonds to be issued thereunder, the principal amount of each maturity, provided that the aggregate principal amount of all the Series 2019 bonds does not exceed $40 million, as I explained a moment ago. Also a delegation for the maturity dates for such bonds, provided that no bond may mature later than 15 years from its date of issuance. And as mentioned a moment ago, it is anticipated that these bonds, the maturities of these bonds, will more or less track the current debt service schedule, maturity schedule for the bonds being refunded. Delegated also are the interest rates for the bonds, provided that the true interest cost of the bonds, assuming they are fixed rate, and are issued, those that are issued as tax-exempt bonds may not exceed 7.5% per annum, and the true interest cost of fixed-rate bonds issued as taxable bonds may not exceed 10%. Delegated also is the purchase price to be paid by the underwriters of such bonds, whether such bonds of any series will be issued as tax-exempt bonds or taxable bonds, and it is the plan currently that the 2019 A bonds will be tax-exempt bonds refunding the 2009 bonds, and that the 2019 B bonds will be taxable bonds advance refunding the 2012 A bonds, which are the only DASNY bonds currently outstanding. Also delegated are the redemption dates, prices, and other redemption terms for bonds, the series principal amount and maturities of the bonds to be refunded. Again, the plan is to refund all of both series, with the caveat, as Matt mentioned, that the law school will see at the pricing what the economics of the taxable bonds looks like. And finally, delegated is issues about the security to be pledged to secure the law school's obligations under the loan agreement relating to each series of bonds. Finally, the series resolution also authorizes various officers of the authority to execute a loan agreement relating to the bonds of such series, prepare and distribute a preliminary official statement, and prepare, execute, and deliver final official statement, execute a bond purchase agreement in connection with the sale of the bonds, and execute all other documents in connection with the sale of the bonds, including likely an intercreditor agreement. Seth will talk about the loan agreement.
Yes. In connection with the issuance of the Series 2019 bonds, the authority and the law school will enter into separate loan agreements for each series of bonds. Each loan agreement will be substantially the same, except for differences related to the loan amount, the bonds being refunded thereby, and the inclusion or not of tax-exempt provisions as it relates to the Series 2019 A bonds. Each loan agreement will obligate the law school to make payments to the trustee in amounts and at times sufficient to make timely payment of principal and sinking fund installments and interest on the related series of bonds. The law school's obligations to make payments will be general obligations of the law school, absolute and unconditional. It's currently expected that to secure its obligations under each loan agreement, the law school will pledge certain revenues, as Matt and Charlie have described, namely tuition and fees charged to students in an amount equal to the maximum annual debt service. The pledged revenues will be subject to prior pledges. In this connection, if the Series 2012A bonds are not refunded, then the pledge of revenues related to those series of bonds will be a prior pledge. The revenue pledges under the respective loan agreements are expected to be on a pari passu basis, and it's expected that an intercreditor agreement will be entered into to govern the respective rights of holders of each series of Series 2019 bonds. Depending on market considerations, as has been discussed at some level, the loan agreements may permit the law school to incur additional indebtedness secured by a parity lien on pledged revenues without the consent of the authority. It is not anticipated that the law school will be subject to financial covenants. It is expected, however, that the law school will be subject to a negative covenant that will encumber its main building and one of its dormitory facilities. If the Series 2012A bonds are not fully refunded and remain outstanding, the existing mortgage on such properties will remain in place. Thank you.
Are there questions for Matt, Seth, and Charlie? You might, for the record here, one of you, any one of you, tell us about what a negative pledge is.
Sure. A negative pledge is simply a covenant, an agreement to not take some action, i.e. pledge, create a mortgage encumbrance on property, for example. A negative pledge may be an agreement to not otherwise create security interest in favor of another party.
All right. Thank you. Yes, Tracy?
Just one question on the decision point to do the advance refunding. Are they basically looking for favorable economics? Is that the decision?
They're looking at the statements in the aggregate, so that won't be the threshold, and they do have a special committee that's been formed of the board chair, the vice chair, and the chair of the finance committee that will be monitoring interest rates up to the day of pricing.
So as long as there's the aggregate savings.
Correct. They are looking at the refundings together combined.
Because there's other benefits.
Correct. The benefits would be the changes in the security features.
Are there other questions? There being none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the transaction?
My pleasure.
Gerard, thank you. Is there a second? Thank you very much, Dr. Gardner. All in favor, please indicate aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there none opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move now to the audit committee report. Chairman Gardner.
Mr. Chair, the audit committee met yesterday. Three things. Kathy Everett gave us a report on the status of the internal audit. I'm happy to say that the group is close to full strength and is performing very well. Karen Ellinger gave us the annual internal controls report, and Mike Cusack reviewed the audit committee charter, which is something we do on an annual basis. There were no recommended changes, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jim. Other questions? You all had a chance to, you received in the mail, I believe, the internal audit report. Did everybody get a copy of this? Well, I'm wrong. We did not, everybody did not get a copy of this. Just the committee? Okay, thank you very much, Dan. Sorry. Thank you very much for your report. Are there questions for John?
That doesn't mean that people didn't get it, aren't entitled to it.
I would never suggest that. Would you like to see it?
No, I got mine. I received my own copy, but I just wanted to make sure nobody thought they were being left out.
No.
This August
If anybody feels
discussion.
left out, we can fix that.
I would anticipate your comment, which was likely to be about the extraordinary level of detail in the report.
You like my, well, I've already said it. I want to thank Kathy and Karen both for their detailed reports yesterday and for the quality of those two reports. Thank you both very much. You are clearly spending a lot of time on these, on your presentations as well as the work that underlies them. Thank you so much. As we've lost the president, we will move on to Portia's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Behind tab 7 are the standard public finance reports. Since last board meeting, I reflected in my report that we priced the interagency council transaction. I would also note that we were in the market yesterday pricing Cornell and Catholic Health. These two transactions were really very different. One was higher ed, one was healthcare, one was AA1, the other was BAA1. Very different credits, but I have to say it was really a very, very good day to be in the market. We had extraordinarily good results on both of those transactions. Just a brief market update. Total new issue supply is about $84 billion year to date. That's about 14% higher than supply levels that we saw last year. Supply this week is expected to be about $6 billion. Treasuries have been stronger overall. They were stronger yesterday as a result of some negative trade and tariff headlines. Munis are kind of mixed, a little up, a little down. Municipal bond funds, however, have continued to see very, very strong inflows. We've had 13 weeks now of consecutive inflows into the market. So an awful lot of money being put to work, which I think sort of goes to the comment earlier about the Cornell and the CHS transactions. The other thing that is of note is that rates are continuing to decrease. 1, 10, and 30-year MMD have decreased by 4 basis points, 20, and 31 basis points respectively since the March board meeting. On the One DASNY front, we continue our One DASNY outreach efforts. We're actually going to be meeting with Fordham on Friday. We'll keep you posted on those efforts. And I'd also note that included in the standard report are annual bond sale reports that include performance metrics. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Portia. Are there questions for Portia? And we're going to go back to Gerard before we go into the planned executive session.
Good morning. We have a couple of items to discuss, including the passage of the state's $175 billion fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. On April 1st, the legislature passed the budget. The $175 billion budget was a Cuomo administration's 9th on-time budget. A number of DASNY clients, including the State University of New York, the City University of New York, and New York State Office of Mental Health, received new capital appropriations We are analyzing the budget and will be discussing with our clients how we can help them deliver their capital projects. The budget legislation included 3 changes to DASNY's authority. It clarified DASNY's authority to finance healthcare projects covered under both the Medical Care Facilities Finance Agency (MICFA) Act and DASNY's authorizing statute. The legislation provides guidance for certain healthcare financings as to when the MICFA Act versus the DASNY Act should be used for purposes of citing statutory authorization. It makes clear that the MICFA Act would govern in the event that the entire project falls within the scope of the MICFA Act. This technical change only affects healthcare institutions that are eligible to be financed under the MICFA Act and are already specifically named in the DASNY statute. It also extended for 2 years DASNY's authorization to provide design and construction management services to the State Department of Environmental Conservation and the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. And as part of the Governor's Vital Brooklyn initiative, the budget provided additional authorization for DASNY's Atlantic Avenue Healthcare Property Holding Corporation subsidiary to sell, exchange, transfer, lease, and convey real property located in Brooklyn upon the direction of the Commissioner of the New York State Division of Homes and Community Renewal. As it has in the past, the budget appropriates $19.6 million to DASNY for the State Health Facility Restructuring Program. A new proposal within the enacted budget enables the Department of Health and DASNY to provide additional bridge funding to assist certain financially distressed hospitals to manage short-term liquidity issues. The bridge funding is provided through the existing Health Facility Restructuring Program and capitalized with an additional $83.3 million appropriation. The legislation allows the Department of Budget to authorize transfers of the funds from DASNY to the state after repayments are made from the recipient hospital. The budget also included new language relating to the Public Authorities Control Board, PACB. The PACB statute states that the board, which the governor and leaders of the state Senate and Assembly each appoint members, may only approve a project if it determines sufficient funding commitments are in place. Unanimous approval is required. New language within the budget states that failure to vote based on this fiscal standard constitute a violation of the public's trust and provides the governor authority to immediately remove a member who acts based on another standard. The budget did not reauthorize and expand Article 15A of New York's MWBE program. This program is set to expire at the end of the year. The discussion was to separate this from the budget for discussion. The fiscal year that just ended was a record-breaking one for DASNY. We issued more than $8.7 billion over 12 issuances. That includes $6.2 billion in public financings and $2.5 billion in private financings issued. These issuances helped DASNY provide infrastructure solutions for the most important projects for public, healthcare, higher education, and other not-for-profit institutions throughout New York State. Thanks and congratulations to everyone involved, Public Finance, Finance Council, and of course you, the board. I am also pleased to highlight we have selected 2 investment bank partners for this year's Public Finance Diversity Fellowship, Jeffries LLC and Siebert Cisnero Shank and Company LLC. As you know, and as we did last year, the firms were chosen by lottery under the supervision of DASNY's auditing partner, KPMG. Awarded by DASNY to 2 graduating college students, the fellowship creates an extraordinary opportunity to increase diversity within the financial services industry and build a more inclusive workforce. The fellowship is a full-year position running from July 1st 2019 through June 30th, 2020. It consists of 2 6-month terms. During the first term, the fellows will serve as analysts in public finance working out of DASNY's Albany office. In the second term, each fellow will work alongside one of DASNY's investment bank partners in New York City. Working with our senior underwriter partners, we will continue to promote the fellowship and look for ways to grow this initiative in years to come. In honor of Women's History Month on March 19th, DASNY hosted a women's leadership event. This was probably our most successful event. I think we've had some great events. This was unequivocally our most successful event. Okay, let's just be clear. We wanted to bring focus to the extraordinary women in construction and finance who are executing on behalf of DASNY. DASNY's event attracted a large crowd of 223 to the Fashion Institute of Technology's Katie Murphy Amphitheater. We interviewed FIT President Dr. Joyce F. Brown, who we are collaborating with on a new academic building project in the SUNY portfolio. Over the course of a wide-ranging conversation, Dr. Brown offered incredible insights into her extraordinary career as a leader and educator. The discussion was immediately followed by a panel of inspirational women in finance and construction, moderated by Cornelia Kale. You know, downstate we say Cahill. Up here I say Kale. Of Barclay Damon, I always got to remember that. Got to eat more kale. That's how I remember. You have to write it down all the time. The panel included Kim Arnone of Jeffries LLC, Cheryl McKissick Daniel of McKissick and McKissick, Suzanne Shank of Siebert Cisneros Shank and Company, and Elizabeth Velez of the Velez Organization. DASNY's very own Portia Lee, our managing director, served as the master of ceremonies and provided opening and closing remarks. And I will say, it really was incredible event. It really was incredible. It was an extension of a lot of the work that we have been doing for years through many of these women. So we were very pleased that we could highlight our successes, their successes, and the most important aspect of the focus that we have around diversity and inclusion. On March 21st, I addressed the Metro New York, New Jersey chapter of the Construction Management Association of America, CMAA. The audience consisted of construction managers in the Northeast region who have worked with DASNY. The discussion centered around DASNY projects, how to best work with DASNY, as well as DASNY's ability to use alternative delivery methods such as design build within our SUNY portfolio. I also spoke to the importance of 2 impending DASNY projects, SUNY Oneonta's Zero Net Energy Ready Residence Hall retrofit and the construction of SUNY Polytechnic Institute's design build Zero Net Energy Residence Hall in Utica. These projects are part of SUNY Chancellor Dr. Christina M. Johnson's plan to achieve greater energy savings across SUNY's 64 campus system and dovetail with Governor Cuomo's Green New Deal to put New York State on a path to economy-wide carbon neutrality. On March 14th, I also presented to the Board of Directors for the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce on DASNY's work and impact in Harlem. DASNY has completed several projects in the region that have improved workforce development and created economic opportunities within the community, including the $265 million patient pavilion at Harlem Hospital, CUNY's Advanced Science Research Center, and the financing of the Jerome L. Green Science Center on Columbia University's Manhattanville campus. We also highlighted DASNY's work at CUNY's Sophie Davis School of Biomedical Education, where we delivered $12.6 million in interior renovations to create much needed specialized training and office space. I will now turn this over to Steve, who will provide you with an update on the construction division work. Thank you.
Before you do that, you have it.
Yes, please.
This board last year, Gerard's just reiterated, approved $8.7 billion in financings. An extraordinary record, something we can all be very proud of. We, members, approved those financings. They would not have gone out the front door without the work that you did to make those financings possible. More importantly, I think, in this particular instance, the staff sitting at this table worked, and I'll use the word that's overworked, tirelessly to bring those proposed financings to this table. I'm very proud of you all for what you've done, all of you, members and staff, and I'd like to say congratulations with a round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Behind tab 8 are the 3 standard construction division board reports for February 2019. The first of which is the construction projects report. On the cover are photographs from a recently completed SUNY Geneseo Onondaga Hall Health Clinic project. The scope of the project was the renovation of a former resident director's living space into a health clinic, working for the demolition of existing space, partitions, MEP systems, ceilings, walls, and flooring, and replacement of the same with new partitions, doors, and hardware, new finishes and casework, MEP systems, fire protection, power and data systems for 2 exam rooms, additional medical space, a reception and waiting area, and private special counseling rooms, as well as a new front entrance, ramp, and railing. The budget was $815,000. Design started in November of 2016. It completed in November of 2017. Mock Architecture was our design consultant. Construction started in July of 2018 and completed in December of 2018 with Kewittons Construction out of Rochester, our general contractor. Some challenges on the project were just a small space. It was very tight working conditions, and the project was bid twice due to the overage on the first bid pricing. On page 3 of the report are listed 4 new projects. Hutchins PC for OMH, which is located in Syracuse. A mechanical upgrade project across their system, valued at $37.7 million. Mohawk Valley Psych Center, another OMH project. New gym and recreation space, valued at $7.5 million. New Paltz Fire District, a Gozer project, a new build, a new fire station, valued at $8.9 million. And the FIT project, which I've updated the board on many times, is finally hitting our books as we transfer the architect's contract over to DASNY, and we'll be rebidding the project, holding the construction contracts. So that's a $189 million project. On page 8 of the report are the construction division expenditures. 2018 fiscal year to date, $799 million. 2019 fiscal year to date, $654 million. That's a decrease of $145 million year over year. An update on projects and programs. I'll start with the DOH Life Sciences Lab. DASNY canceled the project's procurement late last week upon recognition that 2 of the 3 teams shortlisted had dropped out of the competition for the project. At this time, we're reaching out to the 2 firms to better understand their reason for withdrawing. We're also exploring other possible teams' interest in competing. We're evaluating feedback from the construction community in general regarding the project and updating our RFQ, and contract documents. On the FIT project, the project was redesigned to 30% schematics and estimated by 3 professional estimating firms, with the results suggesting bid prices for the redesign would exceed the project's budget again. Further value engineering efforts identified additional opportunities for project savings in the form of elimination of scope and/or bid alternate strategies. FIT will be presented with the results of these most recent efforts, and a decision will be forthcoming on the project's direction. At South Beach Psych Center on Staten Island, contract arrangements were negotiated with the project's general contractor to pull the project's schedule substantial completion date back in from February 2020 to October 4th of 2019. On-site construction continues on all fronts, from final building enclosure to finishes being installed, site work progressing in special inspections, commissioning activities, and fire life safety systems installation. Our next on-site executive meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, April 10th, with OMH and our CM. On the SUNY front, pre-construction activities continue as we close in on the May 15th start date for our summer work. We are listing 37 projects at $62 million to be completed over the 3 summer months. In parallel, work continues on the 4 capital projects at Albany, Alfred, Buffalo State, and Plattsburgh. Those 4 projects are valued at $86 million and will complete in time for the fall semester. In addition, 3 new capital projects valued at $70 million will begin on May 15th as well. NYCHA, the security program update, we are now completed with 75 of the 78 projects. On the appliance program front, 34 of the 38 projects are completed. On the quality of life program, 7 projects are completed, 22 are in construction, and 18 projects are in design. So overall, the program's advancing. We're getting closer and closer to completion. On the GOZER front, efforts continue related to delivering updated pricing and schedule information to GOZER for the DASNY portfolio of projects. The information will be used to make decisions on greenlighting projects for construction given the September 2022 program end date. In the meantime, projects continue to progress through design with others in the procurement and construction phases. And just a couple of other business items on the construction side. We received the go-ahead from OMH on the new Mid-Hudson Forensic Hospital project. This is a large new build down at Mid-Hudson. We valued it at around $350 million. On the CUNY side, the workload continues to grow, with CUNY requesting more services and staff from DASNY to meet their program needs. We hired a safety manager for the construction program statewide. After a long recruiting process, the safety manager will oversee all safety and the safety program at DASNY across the state. The individual is scheduled to start on May 20th. We have 15 summer interns joining us this summer, starting in May. And we finished demonstrations for replacement systems for our contract manager system a couple weeks back. We're working on scheduling site visits to reference sites to follow up on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there questions for Steve?
I'd just like to congratulate Steve and his team. I was reviewing the engineering news record 2 weeks or so ago, and the Niagara Falls State Park project won Best Restoration Project in the United States. But I think you did it with Lero, I think, Steve, but congratulations. I don't think this construction unit gets its fair due of credit sometimes, so I think that's a nice award.
Yeah, Lero put that in. They were our CM out there, so they entered the project in the competition.
Congratulations.
You know, that was on the cover of our annual report. You know that.
The project was, right.
So we were pressing it. Knew that was coming.
It was nice to see.
That's great. Yeah.
That's great. With the board's approval, I'd like to now go into close an executive session. May I have a motion, please, to go into executive session to discuss the financial and credit history of particular corporations, proposed, pending, or current litigation, and the employment history of particular persons or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of particular person. Staff should state this. John Gardner, thank you very much. Is there a second? Paul, thank you. All in favor, please indicate with aye. Aye. We are in executive session. Thank you, Kim. The record will reflect that we've just left a closed session during which no decisions were made other than to return to the public session. The final agenda item, I believe, Kim, is your report.
Thank you. In terms of my financial report, I did not have any additional information to bring to the board's attention. I am available for any questions on to the second item of the report. The second item with the financial report relates to a contract amendment with Cogent Technologies. That is the firm that developed our external website. The procurement under which we procured the services from Cogent also included maintenance of the website. That maintenance went through March 31st of this year. They have performed very well for us over the last almost 2 years since they started developing the site. We would like to continue to utilize their services for maintenance. That would include daily monitoring of the site, technical support, and importantly as well, an annual disaster recovery simulation, as well as looking at the site, addressing any security vulnerabilities that they that come to their attention or we bring to their attention. It's a $35,000 per year renewal. They are 5 one-year renewal options that are management's sole discretion as to whether or not to move forward with the renewal. The total value of the contract would go over the $300,000 limit, which is why we are bringing it to the board's approval or consideration. Are there questions related to the amendment?
Just have a question. They do some security analysis. How does what they do compared to what the consulting firm that you're using?
Similar to what DASNY does internally, we run various scans.
Okay.
We get inputs from other parties externally that monitor all of the world around us and say, you know, we're noticing some holes with Adobe. We're noticing holes with this internet. With Internet Explorer, with Google, with Chrome, and they distribute that kind of information, and so they receive that as well as do their own scans. So they might come across something that we haven't informed them of, or we might hear of something from our various sources and ask them to look into them.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Kevin. The memorandum that describes Kim's request is in section 10. It is followed immediately by the proposed resolution. The members have all had a chance to review those two documents. There being no questions about the documents, may I have a motion, please, to approve the resolution? Thank you very much, Adrian. Is there a second? Gerard, thank you. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries unanimously. That is the last agenda item that I have for the regular meeting. We will have two very quick meetings for the two subsidiary companies. And we'll have those meetings immediately. May I have a motion, please, to adjourn? Gerard, thank you. Paul, thank you for the second. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
The board meeting is adjourned.